Okay,
Oh,
Jamie, I think you're good to go.
thank you, Kristen. Welcome, everybody, to the July office hours. We appreciate you joining us. We know a lot of folks are heading out for the holidays, so thank you for making a bit of time with us. Uh, Kyle and I, along with our partners at HDR, have a few topics to touch. And Kristen, if we'll go to the next slide. Um, we're going to have a BEAD status update, an update on the permitting roundtables and what's next, an update from our HDR team members, a quick update on contractor consultant certification, and a hot topic that came in from our last office hours on the payment documentation. So as always, please come with any questions you may have as we're going through topics. If something pops out, don't hesitate to pop it in the chat so we can answer it real time. If we cannot provide an accurate answer now, we'll document it for the FAQs and or an upcoming meeting. All right, our next session is August 6th at 1 o'clock, and the registration for that is in the deck as well as on the BEAD site. So next slide, if we could. Kyle's going to kick us off with a BEAD status update.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Jamie. I just wanted to provide a quick update on where we're at on the execution of our BEAD grant agreements. So as of today, we have executed 20 BEAD grant agreements. So yay, that is great progress. We do have 16 that are out there that have been prepared and are pending the grantee signature. So if that is sitting with you, we'd love for you to get through your reviews and get that signature on it and get it back to us so then we can get the CBO OIT leadership team signature on it and make those grants official. So please keep working to process those. And if you have any questions, please reach out to your grant manager to bring those questions up so we can get those resolved. We have none sitting with our office for signature. We do have 4 more that are sitting in the queue, working through our contracting team that are building those grant agreements. And that grantee should be seeing those hopefully next week to get those for review and signature. We do have 22 grants that are still currently missing the required documentation to be able to create those grant agreements. Specifically, 5 of them are missing network design packages, and all 22 of those are missing letters of credit for their financial security. So if you have any questions, please, again, reach out to your grant manager. But we are definitely quickly approaching the July 20th deadline from NTIA and to get these grant agreements signed. So if you're missing documentation, please get that into us as soon as possible. And again, if you have any questions, reach out to Jamie or I, and we can answer any questions that you may have about what is required to meet the specifications to get those grant agreements signed. Just to re-highlight again, the NTIA deadline is July 20th to have all those grant agreements signed, and we have to generate a report from the state of Colorado back up to NTIA to show that we have signed all those grant agreements. One further note is for those of you that have signed and executed grant agreements and indicated your financial surety will be a performance bond, we need those performance bonds within 60 days of the signed grant agreement date. So please work with your grant manager to get those performance bonds in so we can make sure that we have everything lined up and we can proceed towards getting these projects executed and delivering broadband services to our residents in Colorado. Next slide, please. All right, switching topics, I would also like to highlight our permitting roundtables. So we had a great set of 5 in-person regional permitting roundtables. Thanks to everyone who showed up and also for the invitation to their stakeholders that are pole owners or environmental consultants. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and sit with us in each one of these locations and discuss with us your challenges, your perspectives, so that we can figure out ways we can make this better for everyone involved to help facilitate easier, faster, better permitting processes. So out of our 5 in-person roundtables, we have decided to execute 2 more virtual roundtables. So the first of which is we want to have a more detailed and in-depth conversation with pole owners. So electric co-ops, electric utility companies, anyone who owns poles, for which we're hanging fiber from. We would like to have a very focused conversation to understand your challenges. We did have some great conversations while we were out in the field, but this will allow more participation across the state from a virtual platform. So please, if you're a pole owner, please plan on attending this virtual roundtable. Also, if you're an ISP and you work regularly with a pole owner, please forward this information to them and ask them to participate. We really want to get after the challenges that have come and have been identified with working through make-ready engineering and pole costs due to defrayed maintenance and other issues that have come up. So please plan on sharing that information. That'll be on Monday, July 27th from 1 to 2 p.m. Mountain Time. We've also decided to have a virtual overall permitting roundtable on Thursday, July 30th from 1 to 3 p.m. Mountain Time. What we plan to do for that is essentially give an outbrief first, of take a synthesis of all of the information we have received through our in-person roundtables and bring that back to you to show you what we heard, what we learned, what were the themes we heard common across the in-person roundtables, and what were the biggest challenges that we see that maybe we can make a dent in getting after. We're also going to present some potential solutions to you, and we'd love to hear your feedback. Essentially kick the tires. Here's what we heard. Here's what we are thinking about doing to improve this process, and give us some feedback on that. So please plan to attend that virtual permitting roundtable Thursday, July 30th at 1 o'clock. There will be a link in the slides once they're posted to our website, but you can register on our CBO website right now for that virtual permitting roundtable on July 30th. Okay. I don't see any questions regarding those two topics.
We do have a question from Kate, just real quick. Kate, I don't have a full answer. She's asking if they can initiate phase 1 of BEAD if we haven't submitted our performance bond yet. Yes, you can initiate it. We're working with finance to determine if that is a requirement for the actual payout of phase 1. So half of that a yes, but we are working with finance on a definitive answer as to whether or not that's tied to a payout. We should have that answer available next week.
Looks like we have a hand up from Michael Ahrens.
Hi there. Can I ask you to elaborate a little bit on the July 20th deadline? Well, I'm not I work in a related industry. I'm not an network operator myself. So I don't know if that July 20th deadline applies only to Colorado or to all states.
So it applies to all states. It's 6 months. So our July 20th is specific to Colorado. It's 6 months from the date your state's plan was approved by the NTIA. So ours was approved January 20th, I believe it was, of this year. So therefore, we have 6 months to get all of the
Got
grant.
it.
Does that answer your question?
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Claire. Yeah, thank you.
Right. And
There's another question here from Cynthia. When are insurance certificates due? A CBO has to be additional insured, correct? So the certificates of insurance are due prior to grant agreement signature. So that is a document we require before we can actually execute that grant agreement.
right.
Okay. And then Michael, you still have your hand up. I'm not sure if that's just a stale hand or if you have another question.
It's stale. I'm in my car, so I will see if I can lower my hand while driving, or if you want
No
to
worries.
lower it for me.
Drive safely. Drive safely. Okay.
Excellent. All right. Well, next up in our conversation is our HDR NEPA team. And I saw Chad on. I'm not sure if Serena's here. Chad, if you're going to take the comms, you're up.
Serena.
Oh, Serena is here.
Yeah, hi Jamie, I'm here. Sorry, my camera's not working at home though today. So yeah. So just kind of wanted to quickly go through a few questions that have come up for a few grantees. So the first one's critical habitat. This has happened a few times already where you run your IPAC or you do your desktop review on Appiet and you see your project overlaps with critical habitat. So this is definitely not a deal breaker. Just because you're in designated critical habitat doesn't automatically trigger formal Section 7 consultation under the Endangered Species Act or even additional conservation measures necessarily. The review of impacts to critical habitats really going to be based on where's your project located, what are your construction methods, what kind of disturbance are you going to have, and are you using existing infrastructure or disturbed corridors? And then, of course, the potential effects to the listed species in the designated critical habitat. For most of the projects on non-federal land that are utilizing, existing right-of-way, existing infrastructure with minimal ground disturbance, this is going to be a pretty straightforward ESA compliance pathway, likely with a no effect or not likely to adversely affect determination. And a way to ensure that is to incorporate those NTIA BMPs and avoidance measures early. Those are really going to help you get to, a streamlined consultation pathway. So if your IPAC listed species, if IPAC identifies listed species that aren't covered under the D key, which we talked about in some of the earlier trainings, or your project can't support a no effect determination, then you can go through the consultation package builder in IPAC, and that's going to help you document the effects. And you'll want to make sure that you're putting in really complete information, though. They need to know the exact construction methods, timing, disturbance limits, all that. But then it'll walk you through, species by species, the effects analysis for all the federally listed species. And it basically generates kind of a summary of effects determinations and provides you with some supporting documentation that can actually serve as the basis for your BA to support your consultation. And another thing I want to mention that is that if significant impacts can't be avoided, we can invite Fish and Wildlife to our NEPA kickoff meeting just to kind of discuss that Section 7 strategy. And one more reminder that if for some reason you need to do formal consultation, meaning your impacts are significant, the NTIA needs to initiate that. But the grantees and their environmental consultants can actually coordinate informally with Fish and Wildlife for, a not likely to adversely affect determination. So there's probably going to be questions on that, but I'll go to the next one and then I can answer any questions. The other thing that's come up is, projects that overlap a Superfund site or another contaminated property. And so we've been working with the EPA and the CDPHE to kind of develop a consistent approach for these projects. And the CBO is currently in the process of developing a statewide materials management plan for all of the BEAD projects in Colorado. And so this will really streamline the process. And, as long as your project conditions fit within this statewide framework that is being developed, you won't need to do any kind of project specific materials management plans or agency coordination. You'll still have to address it in your NEPA document and make sure it's in your, kickoff or your questionnaire so that we can discuss it during the NEPA kickoff meeting. But this should really eliminate a lot of the issues with Superfund sites moving forward. And I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Serena, I'll ask a question that has come up through a variety of discussions. Looking at sequencing items, most of our folks have completed their grant agreements. They've gotten the okay to begin the NEPA preparation for the meeting. And I know everybody's anxious to move on to permitting because that is tied to a milestone. So it sounds like it makes sense to reach out to groups that you're going to have issues with, but not to actually initiate the permitting process until we get the feedback from the NEPA team. Is that correct?
Some of the permitting can be initiated concurrently with NEPA. That they won't issue the permits until NEPA is complete, but it can be initiated concurrently.
Okay, so we'll work on getting those into the checklist. I know we chatted with Serena quite a bit in the offsites about some guidelines on the permitting. So one of the outcomes of the roundtable will be sort of a sequencing dependencies and prerequisites. And I know we'll be working on that actively. Thank you, Serena.
Welcome.
And Chad. Chad, any questions that you would like, any comments from any discussions you've been on that you would like to add? I just feel like I skip you.
No, I'll just piggyback one thing on your question and Serena's answer. If your project is on federal land, you know that you're going to have some other requirements with the Federal Land Management Agency, like the Forest Service or BLM. Definitely hold off, and we want to encourage early coordination with them, but certainly hold off on submitting anything to them in their federal agency permitting process until we've had a chance to chat with you and the subgrantees and your consultant in that kickoff meeting, and kind of hopefully identify the quickest path to streamline compliance for you.
Thank you, Chad. Great clarification. Serena, we have a question of, do we have an ESAP update and expected upload capability date? I don't know that we have that answer yet.
I could take this. So NTI changed some of their guidance within the last, I think it was last month, tying the ESAP uploads to those grant agreement deadlines for each state. So we know from them that we're not going to be able to upload any data or project data into ESAP until after all the grant agreements are signed, so after July 20th. And after that time, I think that's when they'll be populating the data in ESAP with Colorado projects, and some of those triggering activities will happen, like tribal notifications will go out. NTIA will do all that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, ESAP is the tool that NTIA is using to coordinate with states on their NEPA approvals. So there's really no interaction that subgrantees or their consultants will need to have with ESAP. And all of the EHP compliance that we're talking about in this kickoff meetings is feeding into questions that CBO will need to answer for your project in ESAP to get that approval. So it is coming in terms of when we'll be able to access it, but ultimately I think that's something that's kind of maybe behind the curtain for subgrantees. You're really not going to need to interact with ESAP, but know that kind of all the EHP compliance documents and things that we're talking about are being triggered because of questions that are asked in ESAP for NTA to get to that NEPA approval.
Thank you. So we're anticipating it being tied to the deadline. Our next office hours is the first week of August, so we will probably be able to share more robust updates, I hope, by then. Does that seem fair? I think it's August 5th or 6th is our next roundtable.
I hope so. I don't know how quickly after the July 20th deadline data will get uploaded in ESAP, but hopefully we'll have an update by then.
Excellent. I know everybody's watching that one anxiously. That is actually tied to a milestone. So thank you so much, and we'll wait for those updates. We did add at the bottom of the slide the NEPA consultant training and slides. We had great participation, but if you weren't able to participate, or if you just brought your consultant on board, the recording and the slides are available. Right. Next slide, Kristen. Okay, we've had several grantees reach out regarding the certification requirements for consultants and contractors. The guidance is that you must obtain OIT approval for the procurement of services to provide goods and services paid under the grant. It must be submitted to OIT after the contract execution, which many of you are just entering that phase, and prior to the disbursement of any monies in the budget. So for those of you that have already entered it, we want to get this form published and available to you. Again, it will be required before any monies are paid out for those contractors. There's a lot of robust information on the requirements. The form itself is going to be quite simple, and Kristen, I don't know if we're able to share that, or if we're, oh, there we go. It's a fairly streamlined form. It has the grantee information. As the grantee project director, you will be expected to verify that the contractor is not on the federal department list and is actively registered on SAMS.gov. There are instructions for how to complete that. You will sign and then have the contractor, could scroll down just a little bit more. The contractor then needs to fill out the information. It has to be signed by their signatory authority. And then a little further down. Then once completed, you'll submit it to your grant manager through the portal. We will approve, or if there's any issues, we will deny and provide information why, and upload that and send you a copy for your permanent grant records. Below that, we're not going to go through all of it, but it's all of the steps and what each form is required to, what each box on the form means. But the form itself is pretty simple. So we're working with Kristen to get that posted, and we'll have that link out and available to you as quickly as possible. All right. I know it's always awful when I ask Kristen to go from the presentation to a form because she's got her screens all set up. So thank you, Kristen. I appreciate that. Go ahead and go on to the next slide. And do you have any questions on that? I know a few people had reached out, so I wanted to make sure we knew that we had heard and we would get that available to you. All right. John is not with us today. He is on vacation, but he pulled one item out of the, I apologize. Let me pull up my notes. I can't read the note version. He had pulled out an item from the FAQs and wanted to make sure we had the opportunity to call this out to everyone. The original question was that the section conflicted with the fixed award amount and the milestone reimbursement definitions are payments made on completed milestones. John updated that grantees should submit payment request on completion of milestones unless otherwise specifically designated. You as the grantee are responsible for retaining all the receipts, and of course they may be requested in an audit at any time. So hopefully that answers the question. John did further call out that the grant agreement verbiage has been updated to answer that, to take out the discrepancy. Let's see, and I think that's all I have from Mr. John. Okay, let's see. Okay, Kristen's already answering the question. We should have the form posted in the next week or so. Is there a template available for payment request? Those will be the financial reports, and I think we covered last time reaching out to your grant manager if you would like to have your financial reports. Let's see if I can pull that up real quick. Your payment request will serve as financial reports. That should be a template in the portal, but let me confirm that and make sure we get that out in the FAQs. That was answering Mark's question. Okay, now it's open time. Any questions from the floor? Thank you, David. You as well. Mark, just to expand on your question, I know there were several questions about the templates and submission for all of the milestone items. We have a meeting early next week to work through those, and hopefully we can get those published as quickly as possible.
And Jamie, it looks like Craig has his hand up.
Oh, thank you, Craig.
Hi, Jamie. How are you?
Good, Craig. How are you?
Great, thanks. When you showed the BEAD agreement splash sheet, as you're getting those signed BEAD agreements, are you translating those BSLs as previous enforceable commitments to the FCC broadband data collection map, so that they update the BDC map with those locations as previous enforceable? And where I think it matters is that we have this concurrent state and local program going on now. So in the advanced local grant program guidelines, it says to use the FCC, the current FCC map as the Colorado map for BSLs and their status, and same with the last mile addendum. But then a lot of the locations on the Colorado broadband map that show as unserved are actually swept up in BEAD. And so they would appear to be so. So I don't know if there's an intent to have them have an additional flag for pending enforceable commitment, or to correct them in the FCC map so that it reflects. But how does that conflation of those locations happen when the BEAD assignment is in flight?
Great question. I actually had some discussions earlier today on locations. I am going to make sure we capture that. I would like to pull our data team in and make sure we provide a full and complete answer. So we will get that back out in our FAQs.
Okay, thank you.
Kate, yes, we should be setting up regular monthly meetings as we did with CPF with all of our grantees, and I would expect those invitations to be out in July, and then a monthly meeting going forward. If we get to the point that everything's rolling along and they're not needed as often, but I think with all of the push to get everybody up and running, questions on the reports and the milestones, we definitely want a monthly touch base. All right. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. Some great questions we'll have to circle back to the team with. But in the interim, everybody have an amazing 4th of July holiday, and we will talk to you very soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Jamie. Bye, everybody.
Bye all.